Learning how to use reference tracks effectively was the single most important thing I ever did to make my music go from all right to pretty good.
Diamond chain looking like Ice Age. Yeah.
And I think there's a bunch of different ways you can use reference tracks effectively to analyze your music, to A/B compare how does your song sound stacked up against the pros. And that's really what you're doing when you're using reference tracks, is trying to get your track to sound as good as everybody else's, right? So let's dive in. I've loaded in a reference track here, and you can use reference tracks at any point of the production process. You can use it at the beginning when you're just starting to write the song, which is what we're going to be focusing on here, or you can use it at the end when you have a song written and you want to just compare it, be like, okay, like how loud is their kick drum? How loud is their clap? How loud is my kick drum? How loud is my clap? And really get to the nitty gritty and compare those things. But there's a bunch of different things you can compare. You can compare the arrangement. You can compare the different elements that are in the song. You can compare the levels, the mixing of the different elements that are in there. You can compare the sample selection. And so that's what I kind of want to dive into today, is how to really, really use reference tracks well on a micro and macro level. So let's start by loading the song in. What I want to do with any reference track is I want to have it bypass any of the master effects. I kind of like to produce with a few things on my master chain, and I don't want those to be affecting my reference track. I want to hear their master, so I want to go and have it go to external out. What that does is that just sends it straight to my headphones without it applying any of these master chain effects. Right? Now I can actually A/B compare my track, their track, my track, their track, and it's not going to have my mastering chain applied to their track. So I want to start with the drums, and I want to start with the drums because I find the drums always do a good job of capturing the essence and the danceability, especially if we're writing dance music. We're writing house and techno here, right? And so the drums are the most important part. We're going to start there, and so I want to reference these drums. So first, I want to pick out all the different elements that are in this drum group. So let's just hit play and see what we got. So we got a kick, we got a shaker, maybe like a little bit of a hat, and then there's like a lower subby tom groove kind of thing there, right? And those are all the elements that we have in there. Let's see if we can go and try and find some samples that sort of match this vibe. And so first, let's start with the kick, and let's listen to the kick closely. So this kick, it doesn't have a lot of big chunky dirt to it. It sounds pretty clean, sounds pretty deep. And then also I can hear that I think maybe there's some reverb on one of the kick elements. Maybe there's like a tick or a talker, and that's creating that reverby sound in there as well. So just all important things to pay attention to. Maybe let's go over. We'll go up to splice. Let's find some sounds, and let's see what we got. So we want this, just a clean. That one sounds pretty good. All of these are feeling. Maybe we'll do this one here. It sounds pretty clean. Whoops. Copy that over, and I'm just gonna copy this along. Perfect. And next, maybe let's go back to our track. So a 16th note shaker kind of element. Let's see if we can just maybe find a shaker loop of sorts. Really. No, we want something that's real transienty. So these aren't working. These are too. That's closer, but I don't really like the panningness of it. We're really looking for a 16th note. And if we can't find one, I have some ideas. So let's just take this one, and again, we want to have that. So I'm going to drag this in here, copy it in, and we're going to warp it. This one's set to 100. And one thing I noticed about this shaker versus this shaker is this one's got a lot more noise and dirt and things to it, right? And so I kind of want it to be smaller and tighter. I'm going to use this beats mode trick and maybe set it to 16th notes, which is going to create like a 16th note gate. I'm going to bring this in. And now And doesn't sound perfect, but we're kind of like in the same world. And we're not trying to copy this. We're just trying to capture some of the essence, right? So if it doesn't sound exactly the same, that's also great. You're just trying to kind of get it in that same world, right? Okay, so then let's maybe grab another shaker to maybe accent our offbeat hat. So I'm just going to grab a shaker one shot real quick. Something really tight if I can find it. Like that. That sounds really good. And we'll drag that in. And that's just going to be kind of on our offbeat. All right, this is neat already. And what's great about using reference tracks is I just heard that for a second, and then it started to spark some other ideas. It started to spark some other inspiration. And then all of a sudden, I'm off to the races. I'm down my own rabbit hole. I've been inspired by this track, but now I'm off doing my own thing. And I think that's when reference tracks are the best. Is like you load them in, you grab a little idea, and then all of a sudden you don't need it anymore. You're off to the races, right? It's just sparking that inspiration. Okay, so we got this, we got that. Maybe we'll turn this down. Maybe so to add that reverb that we heard. Maybe I'm going to add a top kick from anywhere, and maybe it's like a little transient thing that I add onto this kick, and maybe this is what we add some reverb to. We'll go add a hybrid reverb and see what we got. Oh, a little bit long. We'll bring the K time down. Maybe we'll EQ the reverb. I don't really like all the high end. We can turn that down a bit. All right. That's kind of a nice way to get that reverb, that atmosphere. And we can do the same. I always have a hybrid reverb set to a send here that I can start sending some of these other elements to. Give it a little bit of. And then, okay, so now it's not the same, but it's kind of in a similar world. Let's grab that tom. Now, we can either find like a really, really simple tom somewhere, like a sample, or we could do it with a synth. But for now, we'll just keep her easy. Like an 808 tom will probably do. One of these lower ones. That one. Let's do that one. Now let's go and find these spots. And I'm just zooming in here and I'm seeing, oh, look, there's a little blip there and a little blip there. And I think maybe another one there. Let's see. Yeah, this one looks like it might be even a little quieter. So let's turn this, bring this down, bring this over here, bring this here. Now this one, look, even just looking here, this one's quieter for sure. It's like maybe you just like a little accent or something. Maybe we'll turn this down. Just this one. And then we just go and duplicate this across. And now that's kind of part of our little groove here. Let's see. Now let's listen to this again. Ah, there's another little accent here. You can hear. So let's try that. Maybe here. Maybe this one actually is a smaller little accent one too, you know. That does groove a little nicer now, right? And we're getting a little bit closer to that sound. So perfect. I'll just consolidate that so I can duplicate that across a little bit better. And then I want to listen, is there anything that just happens just once, or is this all just like a drum loop at the beginning, right? Feels like it's just a loop, I think, right? All right. So maybe we'll move on to the next section, But now maybe is a time where I'm like, okay, I kind of have a little bit of vibe here. I want to reference another song. Maybe I'll bring in another reference track and start pulling some elements from that. And maybe I'll bring in another reference track and start pulling some elements from that. The whole idea here is to spark some inspiration, and kind of point you in the right direction of how to kind of capture a similar essence of another tune, another track. That is kind of how to reference the sounds and the sample selection and the elements that go into a song. But you also then want to take a listen and be like, okay, how loud is that kick drum compared to mine? How loud is it? Like the clap? Maybe later on in the track, you want to listen to where the other elements come in. Another big open hat that comes in there. How loud is that open hat to mine? You want to A, B, listen to this, listen to yours, listen to that. And I actually almost recommend don't worry as much about the actual decibel numbers. The kick's hitting -3. I need my kick to be hitting -3. Don't worry about that so much. I would just listen, trust your ears, and then most importantly, once you're kind of happy with it, bounce it out. Listen to your music on your speakers in the studio, in your headphones, on another pair of headphones, in the car, on as many different systems as you can. And also, while you're doing that, take a break, listen to some other professionally mixed and mastered music, listen to yours. Listen to some other professionally mixed and mastered music, listen to yours. On all of those same systems, and take notes. Be like, okay, after I listened to 5 or 6 songs that were professionally mixed, and then I listened to mine, I really noticed that mine sounded way bassier than everybody else's. Or maybe I really noticed that my vocals weren't as clear or as sharp. You can write all these notes down and then go back and try and fix them, right? So that's probably the best way to reference the levels is by doing that whole system of listening on a bunch of different systems, coming back, circling back, versus just trying to rely on numbers. The feeling and your ears are great. Just trust your ears. They will do wonders for you. So that's referencing sort of the sound selection. And then talked about referencing the levels. Then you can also reference the arrangement. How long does one section go for? So the drum intro comes in here, and then the bass comes in there, and then the hi-hat comes in there. Oh, and then look, there's a little fill here. So this last bar, little fill. And then maybe here, it's rising. It's a rising action. We have some effects coming in. The bass drops out here a little bit. Things are filtering up. And then it empties out. And then the drop, right? And if I want, I can go up here. I can right click, add a little marker, be like drop 1, maybe breakdown here, breakdown, put a little drum fill here. You can make note of this, delete. And then when you're working on your song, you can say, okay, drum intro here, then the bass comes in, then we're going to have a fill and then a breakdown. You can kind of just copy the arrangement, right? So that is a good way to even get inspired with different ways that you can arrange songs. You might not realize how many different ways you can arrange a house and techno song. It doesn't need to always just be, 16 bar intro, 16 bar break, 16 bar drop. There's so many different ways you can arrange it. And this is a good way to kind of figure that out. So referencing the elements, referencing the levels of things, referencing the arrangement, and just simply A-B, listen to this, then listen to your song, and try to listen on a very, 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 very micro level and then a very macro level. Try to listen, okay, like how does their clap sound wider than mine? Does their clap sound brighter, duller? And then what effects could you apply to try and get yours closer to theirs? And is it an effect that you can apply to make your clap sound more like their clap, or is it swapping the sample? I've talked about this a bunch in my videos before about how important sample selection is, and swapping the sample over and over and over again, you'll probably get closer to where your reference tracks are, right? And it's good having that reference in there to know what type of sample you're kind of going for that's going to work well with your track. And there's no right answer, but you do want to make sure that all the samples that you're working with in your song all work really well with each other. Okay, I think that I've explained most of what I wanted to get across here with referencing tunes. It's a lot of just soloing, A-Bing, comparing, going back and forth, but then also zooming in and getting really, really analytical about, okay, look, little element here, little element here, little element here. It'll all hopefully inspire you and give you a clearer direction on what you can do to your song to try and get it closer to sounding like theirs. All right, if you aren't already, make sure you join the High Octane Discord server. The link to join is in the comments. And make sure you're following me at @Cloverdale on all socials, and following the label at Vibrancy Label on all socials. If you want to book a one-on-one studio session with me, you can do that at vibrancylabel.com. All right, we'll see you next week. Peace.